Welcome to the Ask Us Anything with the cast of Culp and Culpability for the Regency Cthulhu setting. We will be returning for season 2 next week, but in the meantime, let's answer your questions and cast your questions, because we've had some quite wonderful questions coming through the community, but we couldn't help ourselves as well. So we're actually going to start off with a community member. This is a question, and this is going to be for everybody. Okay, so brace yourselves, cast. Oh, actually, very quickly, if I just call you out, can you just introduce and remind yourself, because our listeners will know your voice, but they might not know your face. Stu, would you mind telling us who you play in Cult and Culpability?
So I'm Stu, and I play Mr. Thomas Prideaux, and this is how I normally dress.
Phaedra, could you please tell us who you play on Cult and Culpability?
Hello, I'm Phaedra, and I play Anastasia or Anastasia, depending on who you ask, Prideaux.
And Cosmic, could you tell us who you play, please?
Hi, I'm Cosmic, and I play the Reverend Prideaux, Reverend George Prideaux.
And Lydia.
Hi, everybody. I play Charlotte Lambert.
And Mr. Howl himself.
Hi, I'm Howl. I play Mr. Christopher Burrows, the apprentice lawyer.
Excellent. Well, there we go. Faces to the names. So we'll go straight on to our first question. This is from Sophie T. This question says, which plot hook or aspect of your investigator arc are you most excited to have your character explore next season? Ooh. And I think, why don't we go in that order again? So Stu, playing Thomas Prideaux, what's your kind of most excitable character arc?
So spoilers for the last episode of season 1 was the reappearance of Mr. Jenkins at the Prideaux Manor. And well, let's just say I'm rather excited to see how Thomas feels about a potential betrothal between Mr. Jenkins and Anastasia.
And we're going to go straight over to Phaedra to see what Anastasia's thoughts are on that.
I am personally not excited about the Mr. Jenkins arc. I am rather terrified, and I want him to just go away and leave me alone. In terms of more excited, positive feelings, I do want to bring up the arc around my shared dreams with Lydia's character, and yeah, wanting to know more about what's happening in the kind of dreams, distant past boat space. I'm quite excited to explore that more. I don't want to explore Jenkins. I just want to kill him.
Explore his funeral. Back to the church, everyone. Okay, Cosmic, let's hear from Reverend George.
Well, Reverend George is very much still interested. He hasn't forgotten about the book that his brother has, and poor manservant died. I forget his name now.
R.I.P. Isaac Chambers.
Oh, R.I.P. Isaac Chambers. There we go. He died an awfully long time ago. But there might be something in the book that's going to unlock a little bit of this mystery. Maybe George's brother Adam knew something about King's Come and what mysteries it holds. Now we've finally got there.
Yeah, okay, I like that. Lydia, Charlotte Lambert.
Well, it's kind of a dual thing for me. Philippe, how has he come back? Why has he come back? What does he want? And also that note that he passed her, the "you are done with a U." So I think Charlotte definitely wants to look into the Dunn family and find out, what does this note refer to? Is it to the past? Is it to the future? Does Philippe want her to ally herself with the Dunns? Lots of mysteries going on there that I think I'm really looking forward to exploring.
Nice. Okay, and Mr. Howl playing Mr. Burrows.
Well, Mr. Burrows was brought in from a legal standpoint just to find out more about and to assist with the transition of this aristocratic family with some strange anomalies in their genealogical record. And that was interesting enough, but I think it really started going off the rails on a particular evening when he got roped into dealing with a red-eyed intruder leaving creepy letters in a young lady's bedroom. So I think that is that's his introduction to the realm of the creepy and what I'm most interested in.
Okay, nice. Yeah. And I think when we say Mr. Burrows, it's almost synonymous with ladies' bedrooms at this point, isn't it? Considering the way our story's gone, which is the dice's fault and nobody else's. Our next question actually comes from none other than Phaedra, who plays Anastasia. Phaedra's question is this: I, for one, would like for all the cast members to tell us their favorite ship between all of the characters in Cult and Culpability, please. So what's your favorite relationship that's going on? And we'll go in reverse order. So Howl, we'll start with you, if that's all right.
Is it bad form to like your own ship? Because
No.
there's something about Burrows and Aldworth which really does it for me, to be honest. Just the absolute worship of a lawyer is something very cosmically alien to me, but that really works for Mr. Burrows.
Nice. Okay, yeah, cool. And Lydia for Charlotte.
Oh, I'm really torn between Burrows Anastasia and Charlotte Philippe, because Anastasia and Burrows are kind of adorable, really, and neither of them, I think, can really see whether it's happening or if it's happening or how they actually feel. I don't know, but I like the potential of that one. And of course, Charlotte Philippe, that's just, wow, pure gothic romance, isn't it? I love that.
Yeah, fantastic. And Charles, who plays Philippe, is, I think, in a nutshell, a gothic romance. So I think that's fair. That's
absolutely, absolutely. It's very easy to imagine eloping, definitely, when you've got Charles playing him.
Phaedra for Anastasia.
Yeah, I actually, funnily enough, I asked that question without being exactly sure myself what my answer would be, which are always the best questions. I'm going to go out of left field and say Mr. Jenkins and Thomas Prideaux. I think there's something there.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. I think. I think you.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think that they might be. Yeah, there might be more there than we know about.
Someone's getting married. We're not saying who. Cosmic for the Reverend, please.
Well, the Reverend the Reverend looks upon the two children and their relationship and how he's supposed to be shepherding them. But me as a player, it's just kind of like, wow, you two are proper chips off the old block, aren't you? So that's good fun to watch those two play it out.
I suppose a really relative point for you as well, like a character playing point, because that's for your investigator, that's part of his charge, isn't it? Is looking after the nephew and the niece. Yeah. And Stu.
I think I'm going to go for the obvious is the Charlotte Philippe. Absolutely. Especially with the time that has passed since they last saw what's quite going on. Although in the episode in which Burrows first appeared, I felt that at one point after Thomas had a few too many and Burrows was a little bit exasperated, that just possibly the slight spark of a bromance starting to appear. So we'll see where that goes.
You were trying to convince him to play some cards, I think, at one point, weren't you? And you were kind of going, well, come on, play some cards. I'll even let you win some money back or give me an IOU or something.
It was a little intimidating.
Yeah, absolutely.
The disparity in rank would never work, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's what makes it exciting, right? You couldn't tell anyone.
I'm just going to chuck mine quick in there because I think a little bit like Phaedra, mine's a little out of left field here. And I think this is because I had nothing to do with it, and it was the role playing of the wonderful you guys and the investigators. I love the moment where Charles playing Philippe met Anastasia. And there was a line where Anastasia said, "What are you doing with Charlotte? Why is she in a lake?" And Charles, just being brilliant role player, Charles said, "She's not in a lake. She's on a boat." And I think there was like an argument between you two about the possessiveness of the character of Charlotte. I thought that was cool. I'm quite interested to see where that goes because I have nothing to do with that interaction. That's very much you guys. So that's very exciting as the keeper. Okay, so this next question is from Scotty D. This question is: the investigators seem to have turned against each other. To the investigators, was this out of survival or for another reason? And then it says to the keeper, Newman, did you do this on purpose? So we'll go with the investigators first, shall we? The investigators have turned on each other. Was this out of survival? And Charlotte, we'll start with you on this one, please.
Well, I think I think in season 1, there's been a lot of division between Charlotte and particularly with the Reverend. And I think some of it is born out of sort of self-doubt and questioning, because she kind of occupies this very in-between space, really, Charlotte does. She's neither fully a member of the family, she feels like, but she's also neither fully an outsider, fully one of the servant class. And so I think there's a lot of kind of jostling for position there on Charlotte's part. And I think that she feels the Reverend just doesn't get her. And so I'm really looking forward to letting everybody see how that plays out in season 2. It's an arc I think we've started, Cosmic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing whether they patch things up or whether they just become more and more divided.
Nice. We'll bounce around. Stu, let's go to you next, please.
It's interesting how we have sort of brought out the family and particularly the sibling rivalries in this group. Not that high-born, high-class families in the United Kingdom have sibling rivalries. No, never happened. Nobody writes books about them either. But no, it's just happened naturally. But I feel it's happened naturally in the way that we've been living as a family unit for such a long time, but now something external has come in, this cosmic horror that is chasing us, and everybody's interpretation of what's going on is leading their paranoia and separating us off. The one thing that I'm actually surprised about is how the Reverend and Thomas are growing closer, although probably they have been most at loggerheads together in the past. Now that all this is happening, they have come together to really try and protect the family, possibly misguidedly, but yes.
Okay. Reverend Cosmic, let's hear from you.
Well, the Reverend really is all about trying to keep everyone together. He's actually at a bit of a loss as to quite what on earth is going on. I mean, he simply had to go down to Kingscombe, take everyone down on a coach, listen to a will and come back home again, and now everything's gone to pot. So he's actually at a bit of a loss as to quite what is going on. So he'll probably actually try and begin to gather the people back in. The story is helping in that there's some weird stuff going on. So he's probably a little more inclined to believe what people are saying. So yeah, I think in season 2 he'll probably have to. I don't think he's actually on a high horse particularly, but certainly take a step backwards and just go, right, maybe things are a little strange. We need to adjust the approach.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Phaedra, Anastasia, let's hear from you.
I think that there has always been a division, so I feel like from kind of how it emerged naturally in the recordings, Anastasia has always been on the outskirts of the family affairs, with the uncle and her brother kind of talking and knowing everything about what's happening, but not sharing it with her. She has never cared until her father disappeared, and that's, I think, when it began, where she actually realized that it's a boys' club and she's not invited in. I think initially that was the main division. Like, they're trying to protect her, but actually they're just not giving her any information, even when it's really serious things. That brought her closer to Lydia's character, Charlotte, initially. I think we had kind of like a gender division naturally form because of the, role-played sexism of the time. And then, of course, Newman decided to give Charlotte voices about not being a Prideaux anymore. And then there was a division between them just based on that kind of, whether she belongs, whether she doesn't belong. And I think Anastasia has always wanted to be close with Charlotte, and Anastasia didn't really have anything against her. And then Burrows, she's been quite trusting and open. So I think that for her, it's mostly her brother and her uncle just not taking her seriously, and Charlotte being upset with her, but she doesn't know why. Burrows is just a guy. She doesn't really feel any conflict with him. He's just doing his thing.
Is that as close as Anastasia comes to true love? She doesn't have any conflict with him. Yeah, we'll keep him close. Keep him close.
Anastasia's not a romantic person. She's more of a, just doing her own thing.
Well, Mr. Burrows, let's hear from you about that conflict, because it's a slightly different situation for you, isn't it?
Very much so. Mr. Burrows has entered the story late, obviously, and not as a member of the family. His first duty and loyalty is always to the firm. So he's very much a self-effacing, subservient chap of a lower class who's sort of been, although he's ambitious, he's currently a pawn in other people's games. So sent in by Aldworth with clear instructions to get the family where they needed to be and to find out as much as he could about them on the way. He sort of had trouble saying no when things showed up unexpectedly in what was supposed to be quite a simple job. But he's not driven by a particular desire to protect or defend the interests of this family or any particular claim to its ancestral seat, so much as he is just hoping to find a path of least resistance to eventually getting his own legal practice, which is starting to look increasingly unlikely.
That could be the cosmic horror, is that you do get your own legal practice and all the pressure that comes with it.
God, the desk job, awful.
So I'll throw something in there, and I suppose this is confession time because season 1 is over. When we started this and we were looking at playing this family unit, I did take the opportunity, purely to see if it came up in the role playing, to experiment with how far you, with a few little nudges and nuggets here and there, were willing to tear the family apart. And you know what? You could have, it could have been a lot worse, could have been a lot better. But I think that I think the only reason I had that thought as a keeper was because in so many scenarios and campaigns, there are so many reasons to band together, to work together, to find the clues and work together and unsolve the mystery. Now, we still have that, but because they're a family, I kind of wanted to, and you guys brought all of this out. I just dropped some hints here and there, but it was the idea that they're already together. So let's see how far we can test that, which has been really, I think it's added hugely to the character dynamics and to the relationships that you've evolved. I don't think there's been any railroading there. It's all been presentations and opportunities, which is kind of, I think, what the keeper's job is. So there you go, my little confession. There was a slight active awareness of, wonder how far we can tear this family apart before they realize what's going on. But you did it to yourself, like the brilliant Radiohead song that it is. Okay, we have a question from Jason. So I've heard on the grapevine that Newman likes to periodically ask the player characters, that's you guys, questions that relate to future events. How does Newman strike a balance between a richer storytelling experience and metagaming with this extra background knowledge? I think because of the nature of what we're doing and the nature of this being a big campaign in this setting, which is, we're all a part of the MR community, so we're used to writing these smaller scenarios and having these certain hooks and moments that happen. With this being a bit bigger, there have been moments where I've said, well, I don't know, I'm trying to think actually. There could be maybe a location or the possibility of an event coming up, or maybe I'm just asking the players maybe how they feel about something. It's so I feel personally, as a keeper that I'm kind of being responsible with my investigators, and that they get to explore parts of their characters that they want to, because we are recording this podcast, and as much as we're sharing this with the wider world, and we love doing that because we're really proud of what we're doing, but it is really important for me that these guys get their experience. When I've run campaigns in my home games before, I have done something similar where I've actually spoken to the players outside of the game, and just no kind of hidden secrets, gems or anything like that, but just getting a hint of what they really enjoy exploring. Or so for example, quite early on in this, Thomas's and Anastasia's father and the Reverend's brother went missing. Adam Prideaux left in a carriage and went missing. Just asking these guys how they felt about that. And yes, we did it in game, but getting a bigger gauge of it outside a game allowed me to create more of a world that these guys, hopefully they wanted to explore. So that's kind of the idea. I think, and it's coming up in a later question, if there was a question about, okay, well, we're going to kind of go to this location, I think it's been relatively obvious from a few episodes that we were trying very hard to get to Kingscombe, but so many things were happening. So saying things like, okay, I'm gonna we're gonna start, and I'm gonna ask you as we start on the carriage. How did you get out of that situation, or what are you thinking about? So just that little prep, just that little thing to give the investigator something to think about. A, I feel like I'm supporting the investigator in their role playing experience, and B, I think as a group, we recognized there was going to be a passage of time where we were all comfortable with that happening. It's a really good question, Jason, because that's actually made me reflect on my own practice a little bit and actually think about why I did that. So yeah, thank you very much. Okay, a question now from none other than our very own Mr. Howl. This is a keeper question again. Oh, I didn't plan that very well, did I? How far in advance did you have the finale planned? Finale? Have we got to finish this thing at some point? And did you expect the journey to Kingscombe to take so long? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I was really glad it did, though, in a way, because there were some lovely moments in there. You know, what with being in the house in the countryside, and the lightning, and the Jenkins, and the eyes, and the other person, and the Reverend running out with a shotgun, and Thomas accosting Mr. Burrows in the corridor while Anastasia ran off screaming. Lots of lovely moments were created from that journey. It could have been that we left Shepford Manor and said, okay, we're now in Kingscombe. I think for what we're doing, the longer element of it, we've allowed our investigators to evolve and develop in that time. How far in advance did I have the finale planned?
The season 1 finale, just to be clear.
Cool. Okay, good. Yeah, I'd say after about, I knew from the get-go where I would have liked us to have been. It was very important to me that you were there for the funeral of Lord Matthew Prideaux, and had a lot of your questions, mystique and intrigue around Lord Matthew Prideaux, and that you were in that environment. But I think the actual to do with Mr. Jenkins, that you have been left in this horrific purgatory of fear and violence that you've been left in, that came about relatively organically. And again, that came from things like being in the country house on the way there and having that interaction with Mr. Jenkins. And I think one of the finer moments, again, that I presented but could have gone any way, was when we actually arrived at Prideaux Manor and Anastasia turned and saw that it was Mr. Jenkins who had been the coach driver all along. And this recurrence of Jenkins has been something that almost has just naturally felt as if it was a big feature to the story. And it seemed very fitting that he would get the big finale scene of season 1. So that was about episode 3-4 that finalized. It was in mind. I kind of knew what was going to happen to a certain character. No spoiler alerts. But yeah, it was probably season 3 and 4. You guys, as the investigators, as I think it should be, as the keeper, you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot of the decision making, if not majority of the decision making, in terms of where we go and what we find. So it's really lovely keeping me on my toes to be able to respond to that. Okay, we have a question from a Dr. O, or Dr. Ollie. Which historical figure or fictional character from the Regency period would you most like to play a game of Call of Cthulhu with? So either historical figure or fictional character. Not everybody is allowed to say Jane Austen. In fact, no one's allowed to say Jane Austen. That's just cheating. Stu, we'll go with you first.
So
am I allowed to look at my bookshelf and just look at names?
I mean, I think the obvious option would be Lord Byron. Because
he brings the cosmic horror.
Why not? Absolutely, why not? In fact, if we could take the Call of Cthulhu starter set to that cottage on the shore of the lake with Polidori and the Shelleys and Byron, and just sit down and say, Shelley, no, don't worry about writing Frankenstein just yet. Polidori, don't worry about writing the vampire just yet. Let's have a game. I think that would be what we want to do.
Yeah. Okay, nice. I like it. Cosmic, let's go to you next.
Now, my parliamentary history isn't 100%, so I'll have to turn to Stu for who was the Prime Minister at the time? When did Peel come in?
Peel was 1820s, 1830s. 1812 was Spencer Perceval. When he was shot, it became Lord Liverpool. Lord Liverpool went on for a while, and it was George Canning, the shortest reigned Prime Minister after that.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
When I studied 1815 to 51 at school, the characters of the prime ministers, Liverpool, later on Melbourne, all those kind of people, is just the Houses of Parliament just seem to be an absolute mess of chaos, even more so than usual, because there was much more personalities. And so, you know, going to the Commons and running a game of Call of Cthulhu with the Whigs and everyone, it would be, yes, quite humorous, I would think.
Nice. Okay, Lydia, let's go to you.
It's a teeny bit out of period, so I'm cheating a tiny bit, but I'm going to say Alexander Hamilton. Not just because I love the musical, but I think he'd really keep the energy up. I think he'd keep everybody entertained, but I also think he might be a bit argumentative and a bit of a rules lawyer. So I think I'd probably ask him to be the keeper, to be honest. Put him in charge. And I think he'd like
one
that.
of the million things he hasn't done, so...
absolutely.
Jumping in.
Well, it doesn't scan. I don't think you can put that into a rap, to be honest.
And Mr. Howl.
I know this isn't on period, but it did mention historical figures alternatively. Bizarrely enough, I'd really like to play a game with Bob Cratchit and a young Ebenezer Scrooge, because I think, more or less unthinkingly, that's where I feel like I've positioned Burrows. He doesn't have, he's got Bob Cratchit's like, oh, I'm just trying to do what my boss tells me kind of wretchedness, but doesn't have his goodness and purity of spirit. And he's probably not as like cold-hearted and driven as a young Ebenezer Scrooge, but like somewhere between the two.
Okay, yeah. I mean, let's be honest, Christmas Carol is not far off a cosmic horror. Let's be honest. It's you know, Muppets Christmas Carol, definitely close to cosmic horror.
Fantastic.
And Phaedra.
Well, every single person in the Regency era that I know of has been mentioned. So I'm going to reuse one and say Lord Byron, because I am Greek and I've been reading about the Greek history, and I don't know if this is very well known. Lord Byron is basically the only Regency era English person we learn about at school, because he was a massive figure in the Greek independence revolution. He literally went to Greece and fought with Greek people to get them free from the Ottoman Empire. And I'm reading I'm rereading modern Greek history at the moment. So I think it'd be interesting to talk more about that with him in a Call of Cthulhu game. Maybe one set in that modern Greek era period, which I'm considering researching and writing a bit about.
Nice.
Only fought but died fighting for Greek.
Exactly. Yeah, there's where he lived in his tomb in Messalongi, which is a place kind of in like central Greece-ish.
I remember reading a book about Byron many, many years ago, and it was brilliant because it was like a fictional diary of his life, and obviously he was turned into a vampire by some pasha at some point. Bloody fantastic book. I will remember at some point and put it in the notes for this because it is an amazing book. I would play a game with King George III and his son, the Lord Regent, because I think the son would just go party mad. It'd be a very opulent game of Cthulhu, and his dad would bring the madness, really. So yeah, I think that'd be a good call. Okay, cool, nice, good question, Dr. Ollie. Right, we've got a question here, and I think everybody needs to answer this one. Across the board, nice and quick. Chris Bates, good old Chris. Chris is one of our close pals who's in the community. His question, really seriously, is why are you all so freaking awesome? So, Stu, why are you so freaking awesome?
Because we've got awesome fans and we need to live up to their expectations.
Excellent. Cosmic?
Oh, probably because I've been playing Call of Cthulhu for far too long.
Lydia?
There are some things man was not meant to know.
Oh, nice. Howl?
I take my vitamins.
And Phaedra?
I will answer a question with a question, which is why are you so awesome?
Nice, nice. turnaround.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's all of those things together. It's amazing. Fans want to bring this to, people are enjoying it, and we're all secretly stealing Howl's vitamins. That is why we are so freaking awesome.
I'm not secretly stealing them.
You're just doing it in the open, just in the open.
Just in there like a squirrel.
Okay. So here's a question for our very own from Lydia, who's Charlotte on the podcast. So, at what point this season did you genuinely fear your character was about to die horribly or go irrevocably insane? Lydia, why don't you start us off with that? It's your question.
Well, it's kind of an obvious one for me, but it's the lake, isn't it? I mean, when your dead husband turns up and asks you to go out to the lake, when the story calls, you go. Although, to be honest, I was completely ready to just have to pack up my dice and say goodbye until season 2. I was thinking, I'm not getting out of this one alive. But I survived. Well, hey.
You did have someone save you. I think that was considerable to the survival
Thank you, Phaedra.
of the character.
Thank you.
You know I'm not adverse to seeing a character off or two. So, yeah. Okay, well, let's go over to Phaedra. Straight over to Phaedra then.
I think mine is pretty simple as well. When you hear a terrifying voice say, "Where is my bride?" and you know it's you, then there's certain feelings that come up with that that make you want to climb up the furniture and just try and break a window and run for your life. And
Yeah.
I think that was my moment.
Is literally what you tried to do. Yes. And Mr. Howl.
Same time frame. I thought for sure the season 1 finale was going to be the death of Mr. Burrows. He hit something of a breaking point, and I think had he been allowed more time to act, he may very well have done himself a mischief.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I'd like to see what comes of that then in season 2. And the good Reverend.
Reverend's going to knock it back a bit to the bookshop, because when you are investigating somewhere as an investigator in Call of Cthulhu, you go in, you know what to expect, you probably got that shotgun, you got a stick of dynamite in your bag just because, and going into the bookshop and saying, oh, well, here we go, Chambers is in here somewhere, and as the investigator going, no, you don't know how many people are in here. You don't know how they are armed. You need to be getting out of here. And you're describing, well, it's dark and you can't really see anything. What am I going to do? So yeah, that the bookshop was the most kind of like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. And as you say, going into that environment, the setting, Regency, Cthulhu, it quite brilliantly, and I mean this in such a positive way, but it puts such significant restrictions, societal restrictions. As you said, you can't walk around with a shotgun and sticks of dynamite because it's not the done thing. So, there is a brilliant set of restrictions that force you to have to play in a certain way. Stu.
So I'm going to admit that my sanity rolls throughout the entire thing were pretty successful. I don't think I've had much of a risk of going insane. Let's just say that season 2 may very well be a different story from what we've recorded so far. And walking around Regency England as an upper class white male character, I've got all the confidence that nothing could possibly go wrong. I think the hairiest time, other than possibly the confronting Burrows in the corridor, was when the watchman came in at the end of the bookshop scene, because at that point my privileges, the trying to bribe them, did not work. And although probably wouldn't have been executed for such a crime if taken into custody, transportation for life was very well a possible punishment there. And that could very well be the end of Thomas Prideaux.
And Thomas, so far in season 1, he has, up until obviously this breaking moment at the end of the season where everybody is exposed to the reality of what's going on, but he's very much ridden the societal ride really through this, and other people have experienced a hell of a lot, and he's just maintained the family's reputation in the society through this whole experience, much like the Reverend's tried to do as well. Interesting. We'll have to see if that's something that he's able to do in season 2. Let's see what works there. 2 questions left. One is for you guys, one is for me. So the question for you guys, our wonderful, wonderful cast. This is from Reese. Do you think Newman is going to kill any of you? And if so, who will be first? So it's a bit of a follow-on question. Let's go in reverse order, or whatever order I remember you being in. Stu, I think you were the last to speak.
I think Newman's going to kill all of us. Which order he's going to kill us in is very much dependent on which order he records the scenes.
Who have I got tonight? Dead. Who's next? Dead. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Cosmic.
Okay, I mean, I hope not. I hope we can survive, because sometimes I think being locked away in a mental asylum, particularly ones of the Regency period, might be a fate worse than death. But I would like to think that, treading carefully, and, as most Call of Cthulhu games, so long as you run away from the monsters and don't put yourself in serious danger, then you might just survive unless the Keeper has it in for you. And as we all know, Call of Cthulhu games, it's not adversarial. It's about a sharing things. Keepers aren't vindictive at all.
Absolutely
they won't
not.
pick on players. So, no. I genuinely don't know whether the Reverend will make it or not. If he doesn't make it, it will probably be, hopefully, for a very good cause, saving other people.
Cosmic, if one of the others was going to die first, who do you think it's going to be?
I don't know. Burrows has had his card marked a number of times and they haven't come up.
Okay. Charlotte, sorry, the question again was, do you think Newman going to kill you? Or if not, who is he going to kill? Who's going to be first?
I think we're all living on borrowed time, to be honest, but I think particularly the Reverend, I think he's not quite accepted that things are very, very wrong here. And I think a little bit of in denial there, and I think that makes him quite vulnerable to something terrible happening.
Okay, nice. Okay, like pointing the finger. I like this. Howl, go for it. Who's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, Miss Lambert has been, hearing the voice of the grave calling for a little while now. But I have to say, I've been expecting Burrows' death more or less since he started. He came in with a simple job, turned out to be not quite so simple, but I thought he was going to outlive his usefulness and be offed in some gruesome fashion. So yeah, I'm very much expecting his demise at any moment. It's going to be a race, I suppose.
Oh, a race to the grave, a race to the end. Phaedra, who is going to get got?
Not to be pragmatic or anything, but judging from the past, probably whoever's schedule clashes with recordings first.
Yeah. We'll just come online. We'll just record something for 10 minutes. Don't worry, I won't need you again after that. Yes, I completely agree. Although I think we've taken quite a cool approach to that, actually. I think there might have been a bit of a benefit to our bizarre recording schedule this coming season. So that'll be really interesting, hopefully, for everybody to see. Okay. Last question, which is for me, but I'm really proud to be able to talk about in front of you, actually. The question is, and I hope I say your name right, so I apologize. It's from Burrows. And you're asking, you say, I'm interested in the fact when this scenario will be available on Drive-Thru RPG. And then you're like this, Stu. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single keeper in possession of adulthood and therefore lack of time must be in want of good inspiration, for example, a well-written scenario. Well, I can tell you, Burrows, that it won't be in the immediate future because I am taking time to write this in a very, as a campaign rather than a scenario, because it is a campaign. It's not a scenario. A scenario would have been the encounter in the country house where we met Jenkins. So we're writing this as a campaign, but also Kingscombe will be a setting. So whether you use the campaign or whether you use the book to have Kingscombe, this coastal town, as a setting, it can be used for either or with all of the NPCs involved in it. So I'd like to say when, but I'm not going to because we have no idea how long this will take. Stu?
And I just my little self-promotion for myself. If you can't wait for Cult and Culpability to be out in print in Drive-Thru RPG, then Host and Hostility, which is my collection of 3 Regency scenarios, is currently on Drive-Thru RPG and will soon be released in print-on-demand hardback and softback versions. And I think we've sort of created a shared universe between the two scenarios, so it's a good thing to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. They kind of, I mean, you can, the way we play and the way we work together as a team, all of us, you'll see that there's an element of possibly a little bit of crossover there. So all that's left to say, I think, is, remember to join us next week for the season 2 starting episode, Act 11 of Cult and Culpability, with a very, very special guest star who is Lynn Hardy, who is the co-author and co-editor of Regency Cthulhu. So if you'd like to see Lynn Hardy, the Lynn Hardy, in a Regency Cthulhu campaign, scenario, actual play podcast, check us out in Act 11 next week. Thank you very much, cast. Thank you all very much for being here and answering these wonderful questions. Community, thank you for asking these questions and watching this and supporting us. Please chuck comments, keep watching. Let us know if you're enjoying it. Many thanks. Be well, everybody.